it's really given me a bit of faith in humanity that the tomorrow man, or the man of tomorrow, is essentially changing. And I think we are the generation of change, and I think our children and our children's children are really going to fucking thank us, because I guess this
Yes.
platform is allowing men to be who they are authentically. And I think we're taking steps in the right direction, but obviously we've got a long way to go. But fuck, we're making tracks, man. He's taught me to, give, and no matter who they are, just give them everything: your time, your support, your encouragement, your love.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Couple of Lattes. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jacques Massey, and for anyone who's joining for their second, third, fourth, or 100th time, thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I'm super excited to get into conversation with Gabe. He is the co-founder of The Finisher, which is a running group, and he's also the founder of Heymate. And the majority of this podcast is built around Heymate, which is basically a safe space that he has created for men to talk openly, be vulnerable, be themselves, and to essentially come to terms with their identity, exactly how they fit in and who they are being a man. So it's an incredible podcast. It's really powerful. If you're a male listener, I think this will really help you. And for any female listeners tuning in, this might be a good one to listen to and then speak with your partners about, your brothers about, your friends about, or even share it with them. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Gabe is an incredible human being, a beautiful soul, and I truly think he is going to offer you some incredible wisdom.
Just a couple of mates having a couple of lattes.
I've got my latte, bro. You've got a water. What's going on with that? To be fair, I should be wearing like a Heymate shirt or something, since
Mate,
we're helping each other.
All my trademarking just got approved, so I'm currently designing some t-shirts and stuff at the moment to get done.
Yeah, that's right. Because you sent around that survey a little while ago with like beanies or t-shirts. I can't remember what I said was good. I think it was like hoodies, shirts, and beanies were like the main ones I'd be down for.
I think you said Speedos as well.
Yeah, I definitely did. Undies. Mate, I've got Pac-Man undies, like literally for Monday through Friday. It's the greatest thing ever. I just chime into my inner child, just like waka 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 waka.
I could have said something with Pacma or Pacmadax or whatever it is, but I'll leave that separately.
That doesn't sound like you, Jacques. Whose voice is that? Is that your guest?
Hey mate, I'm Gabe. I'm the founder of Heymate and the co-founder of The Finisher, which is a run community on the Surf Coast, Victoria. I'm also someone who loves connection, so please just reach out.
Oh man, so good, so good.
So it's so good to be here, mate. It really is. Really, your energy is really contagious. So thank you,
bro. Yours too. Like, I guess while we're in the place where we're praising each other and building each other up. I want to say, like, I'm hugely grateful to you for doing Heymate. And secondly, I'm hugely grateful for Jessie for introducing me to it. So if Jessie's listening, which I'm certain she is, because she's like number one supporter of everyone. Thanks, Jessie. Because like I thought I was in a pretty good mental state, but then jumping on Heymate, like I remember the first one, bro, I looked at my pits afterwards and it was dripping sweat. How weird is that? Because I was like, okay, like I'm good talking about this on a podcast, but when you've got a whole bunch of guys there and like you're just super raw and vulnerable and you're kind of your walls drop, I was like, fuck, this is like powerful shit. And from that first one, like I've done, I think four. But that first one, I was like, man, I've got to get Gabe on the podcast because like I've got to do as much as I possibly can to get this thing out here and let other people know, like, like start talking, start chatting, man.
Yeah. It's first of all, Jessie's an absolute boss and I bloody miss her, so I hope she comes back to Australia sometime soon. But I think it's just I mean those sweaty pits that you kind of spoke about, mate, I still get that every session, and I think we're up to nearly our 80th or 90th session for the year, which is epic. But yeah, every time it's just like that turning stomach, the sweaty palms and the sweaty pits. And you're just like, what the fuck? Oh, am I allowed to swear on this?
Dude, yeah, this is like completely raw and unedited. Unless there's something that comes up that you're like, holy shit, I probably shouldn't have said that, then we can cut it out. But
cool. But no, I feel that. I feel those same things as well, because you just, I guess you're embracing that whole space, and I guess you're a little bit nervous but also excited, and I remember you coming on that first week 4 weeks ago, and just the energy you brought, mate, was next level, and the guys speak so highly of you. And then for you to come in and experience like the journaling session last Thursday was mad as well. So kudos to you for being there, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, bro. Thanks. Sounds like we appreciate each other a bunch. This is fucking awesome.
We can keep going.
Yeah. I guess for anyone listening right now, Haymate sounds like a pretty awesome thing, which, by the way, it is fucking awesome. But let's maybe give people a little bit of clarity around, like, what is Haymate? And then the thing that I really want to know, Gabe, is why did you decide to start it? And in particular, maybe reference your own personal experiences, because I think personal stories are really powerful, and you seem super purposeful about Haymate. And from my own experience, when someone is so purposeful about something, they've gone through some pretty deep suffering to get to that place. So if you're happy to talk about it, fire away, but maybe start by explaining what is Haymate.
Yeah, I guess I love that question. It's so open-ended. So forgive me if I go on a bit of a tangent. But Haymate was launched to amplify the connection between any man. First of all, it was through Australia and New Zealand, but now we've got men joining in from around the world, and it's to simply create a space in which any man feels welcomed, heard, supported, and to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And I guess that camaraderie and that sense of belonging is built through the safe space in which we build at the start, and simply through the conversations that are deeper than the surface level. But why it was started, my partner and myself have a run community down on the surf coast of Victoria as well, called The Finisher, and every Sunday we would meet in different locations around the surf coast, and it literally just filled my cup up every week. There was the ability to meet new people, and to accomplish something by 8:30 on a Sunday morning was so fulfilling. And for me, it literally gave me an emotional hangover every Sunday afternoon. It's just because by 8:30 on a Sunday morning, you run or walk, you've met X amount of new people, you've caught up with some old faces or some familiar faces, and then you've done yoga or meditation, and then you've gone and had coffee by, as I said, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you're just like exhausted because you've given yourself to so many people that morning, and the encouragement and support that you give to people throughout that morning is insane. So I guess kind of when COVID came along, and we were kind of forced to put the Finisher on hold, only due to the amount of numbers we were getting. We were forced to put it on hold. So I was just like, well, what can I do? And I was injured at the time. I was struggling with a bit of a back injury, so I had a little bit more time on my hands. I was off work, and I too, mate, needed I guess that outlet and support. So I was itching to do a men's event in Geelong in early April. Again, that got put on hold, but there was this app that came around, and I think everyone kind of jumped on it. It was called House Party. I'm like, this is sick. Like, what can I do with this? And so there was a bit of a play on words. I'm like, hey mate, let's throw a party. Let's throw a house party. And then I realized that was only open to 8 people, and so we went to Zoom, and me being an absolute noob on the interweb and any technical devices, I tried to navigate my way through Zoom, and I guess threw myself in the deep end a little bit. Didn't really know what I was kind of doing. I knew what I wanted to achieve, but the navigation was kind of a bit blurry. But anyway, put the feelers out there, and 10 guys kind of put their hand up, and like it was insane. It completely blew all my expectations out of the water. Kind of feeling the same way I am now, a bit shaky, a bit arms pity, whatever it is. But just the rawness and the support within the group, and just to see, you know, we're all quite uptight at the start, and then at the end we're all just like, you know, sunk into our chairs a little bit more, and we're very comfortable. And I mean, mind you, it was a pretty lighthearted session, and but it just kind of started building momentum from there. So I maintained one session a week, and then as Haymate kind of got around from state to state and word of mouth, I introduced a second session, and then from there it just kept going. And you know, you fast forward, what are we, 26 weeks or whatever it is, and 80 to 90 sessions later, we're doing 5 sessions a week now, which That's is insane. Unbelievable. I don't know of anyone else doing something similar, which is pretty cool, because it's authentic and it is real. And I think we're trying to make impact authentically. So it's been pretty cool to navigate. I'm not going to lie, there's been a few ups and a few downs, and you know, it is pretty tiring, but you just go back to your why of why you started it, and the impact, I guess. But what is just highlighting?
What is like what is your big why? Because like there's a lot of kind of smaller whys I think you've talked about there, but what's the big thing that when you're suffering from those deep emotional hangovers? And I know what you mean. Sometimes when you give your all and listen to people and like really are there for them and help them, like it's draining. Like it's you're like you say, emotionally hungover. What keeps you going through that? Like what's the guiding star, so to speak?
Yeah, the North Star. I guess I want to highlight that Haymate is not taking away from any health professional, and we're not a health professional ourselves. We're simply providing that safe space for the conversations to be had. And I guess my reason why is because I went through a bit of a hard period. Well, it was hard for me from the ages of 12 to say 22. And what I probably needed most was to be able to feel like I felt supported and I could talk about what I was experiencing at the time. And only a couple of years ago, I had the courage to talk about my own little journey, and it was the best thing I ever did. And since having that conversation back then, it's allowed me to be more of my true self and to have deeper connections with all these amazing people. And to be honest, it's allowed me to have acceptance of myself. So I guess my reason why is because I know the benefits of these deep and meaningful conversations, and I know that it can amplify us as beings, and having a space where these men can show up and to be a better version of themselves and each other and the community beyond is an absolute fucking no-brainer, my friend. It's been amazing that these connections can be made with men across Australia and now the world. And like I knew maybe a handful, maybe 3 or 4 guys prior to Haymate starting. Like these guys jumped in, and now to have the ability to care so much for these men who I actually haven't physically met yet is quite overwhelming. It's quite cool. I'm really excited for the day that we can all be under the same roof. So I guess my reason why is I know how much it's impacted my life, so I wanted other people to experience it as well. And then it literally has a ripple effect, mate. So these conversations, I share it with them, and then we always encourage them to go back into their community or their household or with their friends, with their spouse, whatever it may be, to continue those conversations and literally for Haymate to provide that ripple effect.
Yeah, I think that's powerful, man. It's like to use a kind of odd example, it's almost like when you start taking a drug and then you get addicted to it and you can't stop. But this is like the most beautiful kind of addiction you could have, because each and every day you're giving and you're contributing. And every time you give and you contribute, it's like you say, it's a ripple effect. But not only that, it's exponential in terms of like your personal growth and who you impact. And then because you're impacting more and more people and you're getting more and more feedback, you're just this like, just vibrating on higher and higher levels, because all these all energy waves are coming in. You're just like, holy shit, like I got to keep doing that. I got to keep doing this. And it's where, like, huge comparison, but like people like Tony Robbins, for example, that's where he gets all his energy, because he's just constantly flooded with positive energy because he's non-stop giving it out. And I think that's exactly what you're doing with Haymat. So like, kudos to that, man. And I think you're nodding away, like you're feeling it, right? Like that's kind of the buzz.
Literally, man, 100%. There's definitely moments of just like, the session's done and you just kind of sit there for a bit and you're trying to process, what was achieved in that session and what the fellas can take away from it, or what was said and maybe where the conversation went. And it's literally mind blowing. And I know I've said it once, but I'll always say it again. I really wish more people could hear these conversations. And I guess something I've struggled with, or think I'm struggling with Haymate's mission, is like, how do we get this message to sink into the fellas? Like, for any man to have the understanding that, you don't actually need to have, I guess, trauma or a past experience in order to join these sessions. It's literally to connect and meet some new mates, and, highlighting the fact that sometimes showing up for someone else is more important.
Yeah, I think that's powerful, bro. I guess we've kind of touched on it, but let's say for a new individual that's listening to this and they're going, man, like I am really craving some conversations with some men, like some honest conversations, not just the shallow bullshit I chat about with my mates at the workplace, So for an individual in particular, what do you hope that they get out of the first event? Like, what's the goal for them when they jump in? They're fresh, they're sweaty under the pits, like you and I were. What do you want them to get out of that first session?
Well, I guess when people feel connected to others, they feel more connected to themselves. So we hope that as soon as they step into this group, they feel welcomed and encouraged, and they feel heard. A lot of people come in, or a lot of men come in with, the clenched jaw and their shoulders are up and they're fiddling. So we kind of encourage them to, if you can make yourself that 1% more comfortable, please do it. Get rid of whatever's in your hands and take a couple of deep breaths and just, relax your shoulders, unclench to the jaw. And I mean, community, for example, means to have a sense of belonging. So I think, every individual deserves to feel included and to be a part of something. So I guess for Haymate, we really want that to be felt instantly when these guys step into the room, and we do that through icebreakers and, a bit of banter and bit of small talk, essentially, or a bit of a warm-up, I like to call it, before we get into the swing of things. But I really want these guys to challenge their own assumptions. Like, I think there would be a lot of guys out there that go, I know what Haymate's about already, and, it's not for me. But I really want those guys to challenge all their assumptions, because I can guarantee you that those assumptions are false. Haymate is nothing what you think it is.
Yeah, 100%. I remember when I first kind of heard about it, I thought it was just, some sort of mental health chat, and like I was going to the shrink. But it's like you say, it's definitely more than that. It's, how would I explain it from my own personal experience? I guess the community vibe is, it's like when you have a conversation with an absolute stranger, you tend to blurt out all of the things that you never talk to your family about, because you have these like pre-programmed ideas that your ego might be damaged if you tell your family and people close to you about all these things that are on your mind. But when you go into the space, it's like all of these guys who have all come there for the same reason, to just have an open conversation and not hide behind their walls of stoicism, and just like verbally talk the shit, like have a chat and say exactly what's on their mind. So that's part of it for me.
Absolutely. And you know what, mate, like the biggest thing is that you're probably not going to know anyone else in the group when you rock up. And we've just launched an introduction session. So on a Tuesday night, these guys can come in and we can ask, we can answer any questions they may have, but also to give these guys a familiar face for when they do step into the bigger groups. And I think that's epic. But what I want to highlight is that you don't know anyone else besides, myself or Geordie or Aaron that are kind of behind the scenes with Hey Mate. But it's such a beautiful thing because stepping into a space in which you're not familiar with or you don't know anyone else, it allows you to simply be yourself. And I think there's no expectation for you to be someone you're not. So we're finding that by allowing these guys to show up and meet new faces, these conversations are being had authentically and a lot easier than it would be to normally talk to your group of friends or your family members or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, whatever that may be. So it's such a beautiful and powerful experience to rock up as essentially a stranger, but we guarantee that you leave as mates.
I think you touched on something really powerful there, Gabe, and that's this idea of expectation. And part of this,
Yep.
I think part of the problem for a lot of young men today is there's so much confusing messaging out there, like you should be this, or you should be this, or you shouldn't be this, and you shouldn't do this. And it's like there's almost this crisis with young men where they just have no idea how they're meant to be. And then you've got all this testosterone and this masculine energy, but then you also want to be vulnerable as well at times and just share how you feel. And I think this is the beautiful thing about what you touched on there is when you go into this place where there is no expectation and no one really knows each other, but everyone's there for the same reason, to just have an open, vulnerable conversation. You come out going, okay, holy fuck, I kind of know who I am now. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And then
literally.
Yeah. And then that translates into, in my opinion, a man that shows up as a much better player in a community. But I'm really interested to know, like, from your experience, have you had any sort of feedback around how these men, once they've done a few sessions at Hey Mate, how they're showing up in their community, for their partners, for their kids, for their friends, for their family members?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a great point. And I'm glad you kind of highlighted the expectation kind of things because, there's no internal pressure within the group. We know that in society and in everyday life, there seems to be a lot of external pressures and I guess molds. Essentially, I think men have been slapped with the same paintbrush for many years, and it's about time we break away from the pack and just encourage any being to simply be themselves and to be electric, to be vibrant, and to be different. Imagine if we were all the same, life would be incredibly boring. But I guess these conversations are allowing men to tap into undiscovered potential. So they're finding all these different thinking patterns, and they're literally leaving these chats and going into their own community and having more empathy and a growth mindset. And it's been amazing to see that. I guess these light bulb moments of guys talking about past experiences or what it is they're currently going through, and then having someone else share about something similar, and you just see all these head nods and like a couple of jaw drops. And I guess it's simply allowing these guys to challenge the way that they've been brought up and what they've been told, and to be curious. I love the word curious, Jax, because we tend to have these let me go on this tangent about assumptions, right? Like we could be walking down the main street and there would be a homeless guy, and for a long time many of us would have thought that he's an ice addict, or he's an ex-crim and whatever else. But really we don't know that. We have no idea. And what could have happened is that his wife could have, or his partner could have passed away, and like he's struggling to pay the mortgage and he's been kicked out. Now he's on the street. And it's just like that way of thinking just opens up a plethora of, what ifs and what has actually happened. And I think if we dive into every opportunity with a curious mindset, like it just goes to show how much we actually don't know. So it's pretty inspiring and pretty wicked that thought of, you know, the more we know, like the more we actually don't know. So it's just allowing these guys to go back into their community and their lives, being curious and finding different ways of living, I guess, and being able to grow.
I think what you just said there really ties in with what we were talking about before, about this idea that, and I think this is society in general, not just men. We live in this age now with social media and the internet where there's just so many loud voices, and there's so much of this near necessity to label people or group people into certain groups, certain beliefs, certain thoughts, certain ideas. But then also you've got this like a combination of that plus this idea that if you belong to this group, there's no fucking way that you can talk to someone in this group, and there's no way you can break out of this mold. And you've got all these little mini echo chambers popping up. And so you've got all these men who are falling into, okay, I'm either this group or I'm this group or I'm this group, and there's no way I'm going to talk about this with this guy or this woman or this person. And it's seriously dangerous, and it's seriously frightening to see that happening. And I think what you're doing here and what you're talking about then about having curiosity, which is almost what you're breeding with, hey mate, you know, men coming in and being like, oh wow, okay, that's something I've never really considered could be possible, what this person's talking about. And all of a sudden you go from being part of the hive to being an individual. And I think a lot of the conflict that we have in the world would be so much less so if we were able to address people as individuals rather than, oh, you're part of this group and you voted for that person or you believe in this, so nah, I'm not fucking talking to you, mate. You're a piece of shit. Like, what? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
100%. And I think the scary part is, on top of that, Jax, is being someone in that group and feeling different, but I guess playing your role within that group to fit in. I think there's a lot of guys struggling out there that, are swallowing their own words and hiding their emotions to simply fit in. And mate, I did that for years, and I suffered and paid the consequence for it because, I literally just wanted to fit in with the guys and the girls that I was hanging around with. And mate, if I was ever encouraged to speak or to, when have we ever been encouraged to challenge our assumptions or speak about our emotions or have a well-being year or whatever it may be? Like things would look completely different. So yeah, I love that you've highlighted that.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. And I'm glad to hear you broke out of whatever the mold was that you're in. Because I had a similar experience, and I think mine was a little bit different because I was so caught up in the idea that everyone had of me. And there's a really good quote. Let's see if I can remember it. You're not who you think you are. You're not who they think you are. You are who you think they think you are. Does that make sense? So like I was, and most people are stuck in that last little bracket where it's like, okay, I've got to fit into what I think that they think I am. But when you start doing that, you actually neglect to be exactly who you are. And I was in this so deeply that like all of my meaning, all of who I was associated to a certain belief that other people had of me. And when a huge part of that belief, my ex-girlfriend who broke up with me, and rightfully so, good on you for doing that. Jen, if you are listening to this, you're a champ. I did not deserve you at the time. You're an incredible human being. So I'm glad that she did that, she broke away from me. But when that happened, I was like so caught up in this idea of who everyone else expected me to be that I wanted to kill myself. Like I legitimately was standing on a balcony with my hands on the rails, super high on meth. Like I'd been on a bender for how many days? And I looked down, I went, I wonder what my body would look like splattered on the curb. And like that kind of stuff, and that's a pretty extreme example, but that's part of what you're doing with this, is you're allowing people to kind of break out of this mold early on before they have to go through this, an incredibly fucked up state of mind in order to just be who they are.
I guess the big thing about, and thank you for sharing that, mate.
No worries.
That's incredibly powerful. But I guess what we're highlighting is that, mental health isn't about illness. it's not just about illness, it's about well-being as well. So we're kind of these conversations are naturally providing the tools to these men to be the best version of themselves, and to focus on the well-being side of things, and just to be able to relate to one another and bounce off one another. Like we've got a WhatsApp group as well, and for those that want to be a part of it, that's fine. I know there's a lot of people in there, so there's a lot of notifications. But for instance, mate, like one of the fellas wrote in there the other day that he did his first 3K run, or first 5K run, I think it was, and he goes, "Look, fellas, I literally would not have done this without being a part of this group." And instantly message after message after message of like support and encouragement, and it's just like, fuck, everyone deserves to feel encouraged like that, and to feel supported. And you could only imagine being on the receiving end of that support. It's you're going to go out the fucking next day and do it again, aren't you? Like it's just, and let's not take away from what a run actually provides you as well. So look, it's been phenomenal, and it's been a massive year, and I feel like we're only kind of just getting started. We're navigating through I guess change as well, with daylight savings and coming into summer. But look, I guess if 2020 taught us anything, it's taught us to be agile and to embrace change.
100%. I couldn't agree more with that one, Gabe. A couple of things I just jotted down there while you were talking that you kind of sparked my curiosity on is this idea. One, we are so surrounded by negative feedback, like so unbelievably surrounded by negative feedback. And I understand why it happens, right? Like humans are pre-programmed to search for problems, right? We have this thing called negativity bias. And before the internet and the age of social media and the age of globalized connectivity, it wasn't such a big problem. But now when you jump on social media, you're connected to a billion people maybe at one time, all of them wanting to share their problems, all of them wanting to feel significant about their problems, all of them wanting to feel somewhat the victim so other people will feel sorry for them. And I think what you're doing with this, and what you said about the WhatsApp group, this is when I wrote it down, is you're encouraging people to share just unwavering positivity. And that in itself is a game changer, because instead of putting something up and getting 100 people going, "Oh, poor you," like reinforcing this idea that you're a victim.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're putting something up and you're getting 100 people reinforcing that you're a fucking hero and that you can do whatever you put your mind to. Like it's so simple. It's so simple, but it's like when you switch that light switch, all of a sudden you have someone who believes that they're just a useless piece of shit and there'll never be anything more, to someone who believes that the infinite is possible as long as they just keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. So that's the first thing. And then the second one I had there quickly, I know you're kind of ready to chat, I can feel it, but
I'm buzzing.
was prevention. So too often we're like, "Oh, I've got an ailment, I need the cure." It's like, "Oh, like I'm feeling depressed, I need a cure. Oh, I'm feeling anxious, I need a cure. Oh, I feel like I'm going to throw myself off this balcony," example of me, "I need a cure." It's like, what you're doing with this is you're encouraging men to jump in to prevent the stuff from happening, prevent getting to this place, so that they don't need a cure. They can just fix the problems as they go along and stick on this positive trajectory. What do you think about that?
Yeah, let's go with your first one about negativity, and I think a lot of it comes from ourselves. Like we'll be the first one to pump someone else's tire up or to fill up their cup, but we'll be the first one to take our own feet out from underneath ourselves. And I guess this year, especially, a lot has been taken away, and that final destination or that something to look forward to is gone. And for a long period of time, we didn't know what that kind of looked like. So, a win doesn't have to be a new job or a new car or a holiday or whatever it is. It can simply be as simple as getting out of bed of a morning, catching the sunrise, going for a 3K run for the first time, like having a conversation with someone new. We all know that feeling of feeling embraced, and noticing the change in body language and tone and narrative, and seeing that literally the body language just shift and move. And it's those 1%ers that can make all the fucking difference, my friend. And I think focusing on those small wins can literally amplify your mood for the rest of the day, if not the week. And you never know how much value your words have to someone else as well. So I think that's amazing. But yeah, prevention. I think we've all been given the tool set that we need. Like, we as beings are enough. And with Haymate, and I think with general conversations and in times of struggle, like we never provide answers. We simply provide that space to feel heard. And I think a majority of the time people just need to feel heard and supported, rather than me providing you with advice, because it wouldn't come across. And a group of us actually did our mental health first aid training with Mental Health First Aid Australia a couple of weeks ago, and a beautiful lady by the name of Annie led it for us. She was from Torquay, and we did it over a couple of weeks with some modules. And she highlighted the same thing, that it never come from a place of advice and support, or even providing your own experiences when someone else is struggling. It's simply asking how can I support you, and just allowing them to get what they're struggling with off their chest. And it's an amazing thing to kind of be a part of. And even from a receiving end, Jacques, if I came to you and said I was struggling, and you simply allowed me to just get it off my chest and talk, I know that I would feel 10 kilos lighter, rather than you going, oh no, like, you're fucked, you need to go do this, and this worked for me, and this. You're like, oh fuck, there is something wrong with me. And it's just acknowledging and accepting that sometimes these things are a part of us, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're broken. Just know that whatever it is that you're going through, you're definitely not alone. And there are the right support networks, whether it be professional help or simply your friend networks, that can support you. And I feel like a lot of people say that they're there for their friends, and but when push comes to shove, they might not actually know how to navigate that conversation, or but I don't know what to say. You don't need to have the answers. You just need to show up for that person and to provide a space which encompasses them and supporting them, and just follow up as well. So it's been amazing, mate.
Yeah, I love that. I kind of, the biggest takeaway I got from that is, which I think is something I could probably work on, is sharing my own experiences with people who are struggling. Because I didn't even think of that. Like, that's probably just going to reinforce the negative thoughts that are going in their head if they hear something they're trying to deal with their own shit, and then you drop something like like your own experience on them. It's going to be overwhelming. So that's really powerful. I really got something out of that for sure. But yeah, I think the best way to think about it is just be the mirror. Sometimes people just need to have a mirror there, because I remember, like, when I was kind of coming through my recovery, looking at myself in the mirror was like one of the hardest things I could do. And not only that, but looking at myself in the mirror and saying, hey, I love you, man. Like, I love you, mate.
Yeah.
Like, that was really hard. So sometimes just having someone to be the metaphorical mirror, so you don't necessarily have to jump straight into confronting yourself, is really powerful. Yep. And mirrors don't speak. So just listen.
But
as far as I know,
mate, like 100%, I completely agree with you. Just having that, I guess that acceptance and self-worth is huge.
I've got a bit of a personal one for you, Gabe. How has Hey Mate changed you as a person?
Huge. A very open-ended question.
Let's get deep.
It's seriously provided me with an abundance of emotional intelligence. Like, I to be honest, I struggle to read and sit down and be still, and to I guess to soak in words out of a book. So I'm more of an audio person, but I feel like these conversations have literally taught me so much about myself, and it's allowed me to reflect on some darker times, and to pick up to shine on these darker times with such a bright light, and to discover things that were perhaps under a rock that I didn't even know were fucking there. And what were the lessons? And it's seriously given me, Jack, my hand on heart, it's given me more acceptance of who I am as a person, and to understand that my being has literally been made up of these darker times. And I love this quote that kind of sums up my life, and it's smooth seas never made a skilled sailor, and that just defines what I've kind of gone through with a few left and right hand turns, maybe a couple of U-turns as well, and speed bumps in the road, but what have you. But it's literally given me just the acceptance and I guess more self-worth of who I am as a person, and what I'm doing as a person, and that trying to eliminate these external pressures and assumptions that other people make of me. And the list goes on and on and on, but it's taught me that I think I'm on this earth to give back to people. And I guess what I'm struggling with is to discover what my own potential is at the moment. And I guess the worry of if I'll ever reach what that potential may look like. But I know that by showing up every day and trying to, focus on those 1%ers every day, that I'm kind of following that North Star, and whilst also being aligned with my values. So Hey Mate is very in line with my values, and it's provided me so much more than just a conversation.
That I'm glad you mentioned values just then, because I think for a lot of people that's one of the simplest things they can do in terms of giving themselves, because I feel like purpose is one of those things where people feel like, oh, it's just going to miraculously appear in front of me one day, just my purpose and my meaning and what's going to give me that like long lasting feeling of fulfillment. It's just simply not the case. The door will open. Yeah, it doesn't open. You've got to find the key. And I think values and principles, having like a guiding set of beliefs that you basically structure everything you do around, that will be the first step to creating your own kind of purpose. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that, Gabe. And along the lines of, I guess, like what you're achieving with Hey Mate, and you mentioned that, like you're struggling with this idea of, what your potential is. Bro, your potential is infinite, like infinite. And consider you started this when? In March?
Yeah.
It's been, 6 months? And you're already global? Take a second to reflect on that, bro. Like this is like you're tapping into some form of infinite intelligence right now, because you're connecting with so many different little subsets of consciousness, and like it's impossible to see where this will go. So I wouldn't even worry about that. I just keep doing what you're doing, because the potential is infinite. Yeah,
just highlighting the fact that life is a journey, and it's a continuity of growth, and having the ability to be agile with your values and your goals and your vision. When there is times of adversity, and not getting too stuck on the why things are happening, but just having the ability to be proactive instead of reactive. I guess those times of change truly show who you are as a person, and I guess that's a great reflection of how far you've come when change or adversity comes your way, and how you react in those exact moments. But just highlighting the fact that life is a journey, and growth is forever.
That's powerful, bro. I like that. I think I might jot that little timestamp down. Cool, man. Well, I think we're kind of coming nearer the end of the conversation, or this conversation anyway. There'll be plenty more in the future of that. I'm almost 100% certain. But I guess I want to know for you, let's go back to Hey Mate for a second. Where is Hey Mate going to be in a year? Where is Hey Mate going to be in 5 years? And how is Gabe going to be? Like, who is this new version of Gabe going to be in 5 years? Those are the three questions I have for you.
Well, I'm something that a lot of people actually don't know about me is that I'm working full-time in construction as well. So I guess for me, I'd love to step away from construction and to have the ability and the resources to focus on Haymate full-time or another community project. But we've literally just pitched for some funding of Movember. So hoping to get shortlisted in November. But our impact, we aim to go and develop programs for corporates, for schools, for sporting clubs, and to make Haymate accessible for everyone. So we're looking at developing an app, which is incredibly expensive, hence why we need funding. But we want to make a bigger impact within Australia and New Zealand, and obviously the rest of the world. And we want to be in schools next year. We want to be in corporates, and I'd love to step away and have a team to develop these programs and to collaborate with other partners as well. Who will Gabe be as a person? Fucking great question, and I hate this question, but it's such a goodie.
It's challenging, right?
Yeah. I guess Gabe will be a better version of himself. Sounds cliche, but I really hope that that's true. And I'm really conscious of making, the right decisions and stepping forward in the right direction. So I really hope Gabe is, seeking education and attacking life with a growth mindset and, being agile. And I want Gabe to be the founder of a non-for-profit organization. I really want to launch Haymate into a non-for-profit and to, make our own authentic mark within Australia. Because from what I know, there's no one else currently doing what we do. So I'd love to get ambassadors on board around Australia and organise our meetups and to essentially be those safe houses within the state and someone that any man can go to and to organise a sweat, a run or whatever it may be. But I think Haymate to be a ripple effect and to literally the impact to be broad and limitless.
Well, two things. One, Gabe is already that person. It's just the fact that you need time to catch up to that newer version of Gabe. Like it's already happened. It's just in the future. You just need to keep doing what you're doing. You'll be there. And the second one I kind of thought about is even if there is other people out there doing it, I think the thing that shines out about you, Gabe, and the energy you're putting into this is, like you highlighted before, you have a full-time job, and I know for a fact that you're not making any money off this, and you're still at it like 5 days a week, I think, 5 days a week now, and you're still absolutely buzzing on it. So for that to be happening, obviously money is not a motivation. Obviously there's a deeper purpose. So it's like, man, it's a winning recipe. Like it's already happened. Like consider it done. Unless a meteor hits the earth, and strikes you straight in the head, like that's pretty unlikely. I think you got this, bro.
I'm so appreciative of that, and I guess I'm buzzing because, as I said earlier, I know how important these conversations are. I guess what I haven't kind of said about Haymate is that these conversations make you be present and they make you be conscious. They make you be aware. And for years growing up with a bit of a mental illness and a bit of a hard trot, that for many years I wasn't conscious. I was just simply being. And I guess the consequence of not being conscious is all my potentials just kind of getting stored away and not being used. I just have this vision of these diggers, just like potential into a yard and stored away, and now I've been given the tools to unlock those doors and to backtrack to those years and tap into that potential that wasn't used, as well as the potential that I've been given now. So mate, I'm launching, I'm ready to go. And look, I've been lucky to have such tremendous help along the way and support, and I kind of just want to acknowledge that another guy, Geordie Love, who's taken on a role of facilitating on the Tuesdays, and Aaron Collins has done some tremendous work behind the scenes. And I've got another mate, Squizzy, who's a designer at Lululemon. He's really helping me out with branding and stuff like that. And obviously my girlfriend as well, Bree, she's epic. But I guess Haymate would simply not be what it is without every man involved. And I mean every man involved, every man who has come through that Zoom session and had the ability to show up. to the credit of these guys. And I'm completely overwhelmed by the support and the momentum that these guys have provided me by, word of mouth, and I guess the encouragement for their mates to get involved as well. And we know that these conversations can be quite taxing, and in fact, they're not all deep and meaningful. But we have some really lighthearted, bouncy chats, and but they are taxing, mate. And one a month is like, whew, more than enough sometimes. But for these guys to show up to to 2 or 3 sessions, or even 4 5 sessions a week, every week is a huge ask. And nearly all of them are doing that, and I'm just completely overwhelmed. But it's really given me a bit of faith in humanity that the Tomorrow Man, or the man of tomorrow, is essentially changing. And I think we are the generation of change, and I think our children and our children's children are really going to fucking thank us, because I guess this
Yes.
platform is allowing men to be who they are authentically. And I think we're taking steps in the right direction, but obviously we've got a long way to go. But fuck, we're making tracks, man.
I 100% agree, bro. That was powerful. I could feel the emotion in there. I could feel the drive. And like I said before, bro, like, I don't know if you've read a book called You Are the Placebo by Dr. Joe Dispenza, but great book. You should read it. Or you said you're an audio person. Have a listen.
Audio.
It's incredible, because that's where I get this idea that it's already happened, bro. Like it has already happened. You're already doing everything you need to do day to day to realize the future Gabe. And like, I can feel it in your voice when you're talking there. And I think anyone who's listening to this, specifically men, one, check out Hey Mate, get around it. It's free. Secondly, like, you can hear and you can feel that this man in front of me is 100% committed to what his purpose is, and what he's doing with Hey Mate. So, bro, shout out to you. Incredible. I'm so pumped to have you on the podcast. I think I've been trying to get you on here for like about 5 weeks now.
Admitting from my end, I've been an absolute sucker on replying on Instagram, but I'm really glad we exchanged digits. But again, mate, and it's been an absolute pleasure, and just the impact that you're having as well. I don't think you quite know the impact you're having with the work you're doing and the conversations that you're having. And I think for one day, for that to just hit you like a train, I really want you to sit with that when that train approaches, and just go, wow, you know what I mean? Like, you're just like, actually, what I'm doing is amazing, because I know there would be up down days as well with what you do, and to why am I doing this? And now you mentioned that I get the chance to throw you a question.
You do. I've still got 4 questions for you though.
Yeah, you wait till I get to throw you one, mate. You wait,
bro. I'm sweating.
Coming.
I'm sweating. Cool. Anyway, well, we're perfectly moving into the 4 and 1 then. So, as I told you before we started recording, at the end of every show, I do this thing called the 4 and 1. So you get a question for me, but I get 4 for you because it's my podcast. So what's up?
How you doing?
Yeah. So the first one for you, so there's a couple of deep ones, but then there's also a couple of funny ones as well. So the first one I have for you is, if you had to be in another person's body and or mind for 24 hours, who would it be? And the reason I ask you this is because this was one of the questions that I think you put up when I did my first Hey Mate.
Such an interesting question. And fuck, if you were to ask me again tomorrow, I'd probably say someone completely different. Honestly, at the moment, I'd like to be in Dan Andrews. I think
that would be so interesting.
Huge, hard hitting, but I would love to know what his day in and day out looks like. I'd love to be in the spotlight, to be confronted with those hard decision making, and I guess liaising with other health professionals. And I don't know why I said that one. Probably going to be a little bit controversial, but I would love to know what he's currently going through. I think, without my opinion, I think it's an incredible, role that he's doing. And I think we only see a smidgen of what he's up against. So I'd like to see what it's like to be behind closed doors. And I guess, fuck, he's human as well, man. So I'd love to know what it is, and how his family's getting impacted and how he is really at the moment. I wonder if he's actually been asked that question. So,
well, Dan Andrews, if you're listening to this, mate, just jump on
yeah.
Shout out to Hey Mate.
Hey mate.
Cool. Second one for you, bro. The two biggest mentors in your life right now. So obviously your mentors change, but I want to know the two in your life right now.
I guess, I really look up to my father in terms of the man he is, the connections he's made. He can't go down the street without knocking into anyone who doesn't recognize him or whatever. But he's taught me to, give, and no matter who they are, just give them everything: your time, your support, your encouragement, your love. So he is massive for me, and I probably need to make more of a conscious effort to make sure he knows that. And another person would be Squizzy, Daniel Shinners. I spoke about him earlier. He's one of the designers at Lululemon, Australia, New Zealand. But for me, he has just been a tremendous support. And I went a 4-day retreat with Lululemon late last year, and he was a part of that, and he also founded the Support Bros, which is a basketball team. Awesome. And he's just been so inclusive and so encouraging of everything I do, and just checking in, and he's massive. But on the back of that, I think all the guys too, everyone who shows up to Hey Mate is a mentor of mine. I'm so fascinated, and there's always something that I take away from each session that someone has said or done, and that really inspires me.
Powerful, bro. I think that's the other thing, right? Like when you're having all of these diverse conversations and you're understanding that everyone has these completely unique experiences and that everyone's gone through their own kind of tough times, it makes you so much more empathetic and understanding. And that's one thing that, as men, we tend not to be naturals when it comes to being empathetic. So that's another thing that this does, is it allows you to go, okay, before I start just flat out abusing this person for making a mistake or doing something I don't agree with, maybe I could try and figure out what's actually going on there. So that's and
to also I guess give ourselves that self-compassion and empathy for ourselves. I think it's something that's completely overlooked. But it's those darker conversations, but to also hear these guys talk about their passions and their goals, their vision, their purpose, and not everyone's actually visited it before, so for them to discover it for the first time, it is inspiring, and you're just like, this is the why.
100%, man. Powerful. All right, next one for you. This one's pretty deep. So your greatest moment of suffering and how you got through it and what you learned.
Yeah, I guess great question. I think my greatest suffering was obviously what I spoke about earlier, my battles with mental health, from the ages of 12 to 14 to about 23. And I kind of used to highlight it as my failure years. But since then, I understand that failure simply doesn't exist. It literally, if you're conscious enough, you'll find a lesson and you'll learn from it. Therefore, it's a success. And I'm really grateful for those tough years, because it simply got me to where I am today. And if I was given the opportunity to go back and change anything, I wouldn't. Nothing, not one thing. I went through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and a lot of trauma. Essentially, there was periods of time where I couldn't step outside the house. My heart felt like it was in my throat. There was, the sweatiness was an everyday thing. But it taught me to be resilient and to have the courage as soon as I found that acceptance in this thing was part of me, it's, that anxiety was sitting in my chest. And instead of coming from a place of like, no, you're fucked, there's something wrong with you, you have to, deal with it every day. I would get out of bed, I would acknowledge it and accept that it was a part of me, not tune into it essentially. So as soon as I gave myself that acceptance, that allowed me to have a sense of self-worth and allow others to, accept me for who I am. And I think it's just kind of amplified me as a person and allowed me to seek help and to speak to people and to have these conversations. So the biggest thing that this taught me was that we are enough. And my biggest savior through this whole time was movement. Before the conversation, so running, essentially, we had a bit of a chat about running earlier. Running literally saved my life. It was the one thing that allowed me to control my own breath and to focus on simply putting one foot in front of the other. So I guess I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but the takeaway is what it taught me is that we have the tools that we need right at our feet. In order to get through our darkest times. And whether it's conversation, whether it's movement, whether it's simply asking for help, like we have that embedded in us. Like we know that we have what it takes to get through these things. And it's just a matter of allowing people to understand that and to acknowledge that they are enough. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, that I would not change anything from those dark years. But can I be honest?
Yeah, go on.
Good. I do worry that those days sometimes will come back. Am I truly through this? Am I out the other end, or is it, am I in the eye of the storm? Which kind of scares me at the same time, but it kind of is an encouragement also to maintain momentum and keep doing the things that I'm doing, self-love, self-care, and having these conversations and getting out, being active, and acknowledging the bad days, and simply just focusing on those 1%ers. And as I said earlier, it could simply be getting out of bed of a morning. So I think those times of suffering have literally amplified me into a better person and projected me 10 years further down the track, because it's taught me so much about myself, and that's allowed me to relate with others and to support other people as well.
Powerful, bro. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thanks for being honest, because it's so important. Like, there's too much of this you see it like with influencers all the time on social media, where it's like, yeah, I'm great, everything in life is amazing, rainbows and butterflies, and it's just simply not true. Like, we all have that same kind of fear that things might revert to the mean, and that you're in the eye of the storm, like you said. So thanks for sharing that honestly, because I think more people relate to that than the other version.
And I think it's a fucking good reminder, that too, as well, mate. Like you said, influencers and social media, and it's all airy-fairy and fucking happy days. But nothing is ever as it seems. So it's a great reminder to start the conversation and ask your mates, how are they really? Like, if they give you a short response, fucking pin them down and ask them again. Get it out of them, because as I said, nothing is simply as it seems.
100%, bro. I think there was a few things that popped out of me that I want to get out of my mind, because I'm going to be deeply thinking about them if I don't. I think one of which was, you mentioned running, and before the kind of conversation started being recorded, we talked about how running is, in a sense, a form of meditation. And I think the key takeaway from meditation and self-awareness and presence in general is that you no longer become the victim of your mind, you become the observer of your mind. So, like, we all have these little voices that run around our heads, and if we continue to choose to ignore them because we perceive this idea that if you're talking to yourself, you're crazy, right? You're a madman. Like, bullshit. You have a million different voices in your head. if you are able to, and I think running is a facilitator of this, if you are able to become the observer and to just look upon your mind playing its crazy egotistical tricks on you and go, oh, okay, so that's happening. Yeah, you're feeling that emotion. Yeah, real interesting. It almost becomes like a bit of a game and a bit of a laugh. And instead of clouds blocking out the sky, you end up becoming the puppet master in a sense, where you can start pulling the clouds away and go, oh, I'm afraid right now. Okay, cool. Yeah. Oh, and the sun just came out. How weird is that? The sun actually just came out. Oh, fuck. That's a universal signal. Unreal. You know what I mean? So I think running is
100%. 100%. It's doing things that literally force you to be present. So conversations, it's movement, because without being present, you're going to fucking stumble and hurt yourself or whatever it may be. But a lot of people are getting into cold water therapy at the moment. Fuck, you turning the cold water on in the shower or going in the ocean, like you're going to know exactly where you are when you step foot into the ocean. So again, it's kind of, we're highlighting all these things that literally force you to be where your feet are. And I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. 100% agree with that. The other two things I had on my mind there is, one, what you're doing there, and that's why it was so powerful that you admitted that you're still afraid you might revert to the mean almost, is what you're doing is you're taking fear, and instead of it being this wall in front of you, you're going, actually, hold on, come over here and start chasing me. Because now fear is the motivator, because you're like, well, fuck, I don't want to be back there, so I'm just going to keep running in this direction, right? And the other one that you're combining with that as well is action. So like, you're afraid that you're going to fall back into that state again, and you don't want to, because you're in a joyous place right now. So you're taking action every day. And by taking that action, you're forcing yourself to be present, and you're not going to go back because you're continuing to move forward.
Yeah. For, that fear or that anxiety used to sit here and it used to come up here. And now I've got it here, and I'm kind of using it to like fucking stoke my fire, like get going, boy. Like, you know what I mean? I'm using it as fuel and I guess my fire.
I think that's a really powerful takeaway, man. I didn't expect us to even talk about that. I'm pumped. This is what I love about like open podcasting, is you end up in these deep rabbit holes, and like this deep wisdom ends up exploding out of you. It's great. Yeah, cool. Last question for you, bro. This one's a bit of a funny one. Then you get your one for me. So it's the middle of Australian summer, right? It gets really fucking hot here in Australia. Would you rather run a kilometer through the middle of Melbourne City naked, or in a snowsuit?
I better be careful what I say here, because you'll make me do it. When we go back to running, I would pick running in a 40-degree heat over a cloudy or a rainy day, any day of the week. Like I love running in the heat, just because you get that sense of accomplishment and that exhaustion, and you feel like you've done something, you've given something a nudge. Like there's that battle with obviously the physical side of things, but there's also the mental side of things. Like, fuck, I could just stop here, but oh no, I can keep on going. To answer your question, mate, I would run fucking naked through Melbourne in the middle of summer. I think I would I'll do it at night time probably. But yeah, no, mate, if you're going to do something silly, you may as well fucking do it properly.
I just had a friend of mine, he was just recently on the podcast, and to celebrate going into single digits in terms of the new cases in Melbourne, he ordered a Borat mankini and ran along St Kilda Beach with a Borat mankini. He had a full-on mask on, everything. It was just
no.
It's so good.
What was holding everything in? That thing does not provide any support.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't look too closely, but let's hope it was held in, because it was during the middle of the day. So he didn't get arrested, so I think he's good.
No, I wouldn't want to go near him either. That's funny. That's good. Kudos to him. That's huge.
Cool, bro. You get a question for me, and then I guess we'll get your details and wrap it up.
I've got a question for you, and it's one you've already asked me, but I literally wrote it down before the podcast started. We spoke about the reasons or what you're doing and the impact you're having, and we spoke about the good days, and we acknowledge that sometimes there's some harder days, and I guess on the harder days you question why it is you do something. So my question to you, mate, is what is your why?
What is my why for the podcast or just in life in general?
Combine it.
Sweet. What is my why? What is my why? I guess to simplify it, like I have a mission statement for my life, and it's probably going to evolve and change over time. But I guess to shorten it is to give people wings and roots, because in doing so, I give myself wings and roots. So that's the selfish aspect of it, right? Because like we all do have, we have egos that we succumb to at times. But if you can be as altruistic as possible with the selfish aspect of your ego, then I think you're going to be living a really fucking abundant life. And so, yeah, to answer your question in the most simplest way possible, it's to give people roots and wings. And I do that with the podcast 100% of the time. And with some of the things that I'm working toward in the future, like I'm just going to build on that, because I know that the more people I give wings to soar and become who they want to be, and the more people I root down and just the gratitude of everyday life, then man, I'm just gonna be so fucking happy. So like I'm all about it.
I love that, and thank you so much for sharing. There's mate, I have about 20 other questions for you, but we can leave that for a face-to-face coffee or whatever it is in the near future.
You'll have to start a Hey Mate podcast down the track.
Oh, the time. It's fucking just time, isn't it? Like there's so many things I want to be doing and need to be doing, but it's resources, it's time, and as you said, like there's only so much you can give without burning out at times as well. So that's why I try and go like a deeper session one week and go into a lighter session and light and then dark and then deeper and whatever else, instead of going deep all week, because fuck, it takes a toll, and
No, I think you've got your focus 100% in the right place right now, man. Like just keep your focus where it is, and who knows what the future will hold. And 100%, we'll have many coffees in the future, and we can just get super ridiculously deep and philosophical. I'm all about it. It gets me ridiculously excited, honestly.
Mate, could you the conversations that are being having now, like over Zoom, imagine what that connection and conversation is going to feel or look like when we're all under the same roof, or we go for a camping trip or for a hike, or fuck knows whatever. We're limitless in terms of what we can do, and I seriously feel like we're only just getting started. So I'm really excited to see what summer kind of looks like and what we're allowed to do, and it would be amazing. But super pumped.
Yeah, man. Hey Mate is going places. It already has. So I guess to finish it up, for anyone who's listening to this and they want to get either involved with Hey Mate, or maybe they want to suggest Hey Mate to a friend, or maybe someone is keen and lives in your area, which is, you're living on the coast, right? On the peninsula?
Yeah. I'm currently in Point Lonsdale.
Point Lonsdale, cool. And if anyone wants to get maybe involved with the finisher as well, where can people find Hey Mate? Where can people find the finisher? Where can people find Gabe?
Yeah, you can find me in most places down here. I'm a tall fucker and I stand out like dog's balls. But I guess if you want to find us online, or on our website, www.heymate.live. All our sessions go live on a Monday night at 6 p.m. Getting quick, and just encourage, for the women in our lives, encourage the men in your lives to get involved. Or simply via Instagram as well. It's at heymate._ or at the finisher. So pretty simple. But everything's on there, and feel free to reach out, ask any questions, and but just for you, mate, thank you so much for your time today. I know it's been a long time coming, but I'm stoked to be here and to spend this time with you, and just incredibly grateful for Jesse making the connection for us, and that our paths and our cross, I feel like I've known you for a couple of months, but it feels like a couple of years, and it's amazing that connection can be formed simply via a phone call and a Zoom call. So looking forward to giving you a squeeze in person sometime soon.
I love that, giving a squeeze. I like that, man. Yeah, I'd be like a freaking tiny little black bear cub, because I'm a short dude and you're this huge guy. I'd just be like... But yeah, bro, 100% right back at you. I'm so pumped to have this convo. I can't wait to have a million more coffees with you and get super deep into conversation and change the world one day at a time. But just quickly, in terms of those links, for anyone listening right now, they'll be in the show notes below. So on Instagram, the website, the finisher, the whole lot. But thank you so much, Gabe. This has been unbelievable, and you are doing amazing things, my friend.
Right back at you, mate, and the pleasure's been mine.
Hello again, friend. Thanks for listening to the entirety of that episode. I truly appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't already, please subscribe on whatever platform you're using. And if you're using Apple Podcasts, huge favor to ask you, can you please leave a 5-star rating, leave a comment, leave a review, and be sure to share this with anyone in your life that you think it'll impact positively. Each and every rating and review that we get on Apple Podcasts helps beat the algorithm and get the podcast out to more people. And I think these conversations are worth sharing. So thanks once again, and we'll see you in the next episode of Couple of Lattes.